Hi, everybody. It's Karen Thaxton with Marketing Words, and I have a guest today for our webinar. Welcome, Tyler Henderson of Seller Labs. Glad to have you here.
Thanks, Karen. Happy to be here.
We're going to talk about swiping some competitor data so that you can use that to optimize your own Amazon listings. I know everybody has kind of been up in the air with all the changes that have gone on over the last several months with Amazon, and things that people have noticed in their accounts, and sellers and software developers saying one thing and Amazon saying something different, and just a big jumble of information. And then Amazon made an official announcement the other day. So the thing I'm finding people are asking quite a bit is, what do I need to do with my keywords right now as far as researching them and using them? And this is very timely information to be able to help people out. So we're glad to have you here. We're going to kick this off very quickly. I met Tyler and the Seller Labs group, I think it was last month. The event was held at the Seller Labs World Headquarters in Georgia, and was happy to go. Didn't get to spend a lot of time with Scope. I was in a short little demo and was intrigued because we have not used Scope at Marketing Words, but definitely wanted to know more. So I asked if we could have a demo, a walkthrough, and they were gracious enough to do that. And I thought, well, hey, I'm going to invite all my peeps to come too, and we'll turn it into a webinar training event so that we get your best strategies for keyword research and use, as well as a Scope demo here so we can see what's going on with that. So I'm excited. Let me give you the reins. I'm going to turn it over and make you the presenter and allow you to get your screen up and going.
Okay, so everyone should be able to see my screen now. Can we go ahead and confirm that, please?
Yep, if you will put it in the question box. I can see Amazon.com with a
Awesome.
fire 7 showing on the screen. Everybody else seeing that okay? Let me scroll down and make sure. Yep. Yes, indeed, I can see. All right. Run with it, Tyler. We're ready to take notes.
Awesome. And, first of all, I just wanted to say thanks to Karen for having me on. Of course, this is super exciting for us. Like you said, this is kind of one of those times that things are really in the air for a lot of sellers, and there's a lot of information and misinformation about how to best use keywords. There's this keyword stuffing people have done in the past, and we see and can see that the trends that's going away. So the question becomes, if I can't just throw all these keywords into my listing anymore, how do I accurately use them, and how do I know which keywords are accurately driving sales to my listing and my competitor's listing? So that's what we're going to touch on today. I do want to give you a quick intro into who Seller Labs is and who I am. So hopefully you can know that we're speaking the truth here to you today. Seller Labs is a company. We've existed for 4 years now. I've been with them for the last 2 years. You probably know us, if you know us, by Feedback Genius. I'm at a bunch of trade shows, as is our CMO, Jeff Cohen. We've got a couple different software tools. We work with over 20,000 Amazon sellers. So we just live and breathe the space. So we're on the cutting edge of everything Amazon, and we're out there trying to learn what's best and give best practices to you. And so that's kind of what all this is a culmination of, is the information I'm bringing you today and that's in Scope is from working with Amazon sellers and working with Amazon themselves to then distill that information and then hopefully help you determine what keywords work best for you. So today we're going to talk about Scope. Scope is a product research tool and keyword research tool. I think that it started out as a product research tool originally, but then we kind of discovered that the really super powerful and cool thing about Scope is its ability to do keyword research. And so that's what we're going to focus in on today. And so what I'm going to take you through is, one, what does Amazon care about with keywords? Two, what keywords are you actually ranking for? And then which ones are driving sales to your listings and your competitors' listings? And then how do we track the results? And then we're going to also get into Excel a little bit, because I'm a little bit of a nerd with those kind of things. I'm going to teach you how to practically use these. So First of all, what does Amazon care about? Obviously keywords matter, right? So like keyword search terms matter. Karen can get in with you and talk with you about like how to write compelling copy and how to best format all of those things. That's not why I'm really here today, right? But there are a couple different places where Amazon looks at these keywords. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick search here. The example I like to give is an apple slicer. So we're going to go here, look at an apple slicer, and we're going to see all the different places that Amazon is storing the search terms that you use, right? So all the places that you need to look at search terms are here in the title, right? So you have your title, you have your bullet points, you have your description. Let's get down here to the description right here, right? So all of these bullet points, all of these the words in here are being stored, as well as the back end, right? When you're creating a listing, you have 250 characters, right? Previously, before, that was 5,000 characters, and now it's been lowered to 250. So the keywords that you use matter now more than ever, right? Because previously there was this idea of keyword stuffing, where I'm just going to throw anything in there in the back end keywords that I can and hope that I can kind of get some sales from that. But now Amazon's saying, okay, well, we kind of caught on to you doing this, so we don't want you to do that, right? We only want words that are highly relevant to your product. So that's why, what's kind of what I'm going to show you with Scope is so cool, because you can look at your own product and see which search terms are driving sales to your listing, as well as your competitors. So I'm going to back out here. So we've searched apple slicer, right? Everyone's familiar with this page. You go and you search apple slicer. So I'm going to say that's my product. I've got an apple slicer. It's not selling quite as well as my competitors. Let's look at these top listings. All right, it's not selling quite as well as these. Well, what do? Well, let's open up Scope, the Chrome extension, which starts out, there's two versions of Scope, right? There's the Chrome extension, and then there's the web app. So I always like to start with the Chrome extension when doing all my research. So I open up the Chrome extension. As you see, we've just got this really pretty interface here. And we've got a ton of good info, right? We've got the product discovery kind of stuff. If I'm looking to sell it, I can see all of this stuff, your category, rank, estimated sales, estimated revenue, number of views, all your pretty standard stuff. But then over here to the left, we have some stuff even just on the phrase that I just searched, right? The keywords that I just searched. Apple slicer. Well, let's take a look at that. Oh, the score is 60. Well, what's a score? A score indicates the strength of the keyword based on our algorithm. So a score, and we'll get into this a little bit later, if it's a 1, that means no one's ever searching this, right? Don't bother using it. And if it's a 100, that means that a lot of people are searching it. And then you can kind of see a indication of that here in your search volume. And then we also give you something really cool here, which is the CPC, estimated CPC bid. So that's pretty darn cool. And then past that, the number of results. This is how many products on Amazon come up when you search for apple slicer. So that's a great information to know. So right away you can see that there's some value here. And all of this is available on the free version of Scope. And you can download all of this results right here. Or we can click into one of these products and see from here. So let's pretend that I've got this, I'm building a listing for an apple slicer. I don't even know where to begin, right? So we're going to click on this top #1 result for an apple slicer, and we're going to open up Chrome, or Scope in Chrome. And it's going to tell me a lot of great information. So right away, you can see it's giving me all this great information about sales rank, review count, stars, giving me a profit calculator, all that really cool product discovery stuff. That's not why we're here to talk about it. That's just kind of the cherry on top. What we're here to talk about is this over here. These are all the keywords that this listing is currently being showing up for. So we have apple cutter slicer core. If someone typed that in, it would be showing up in position 61. So you can see the keyword over here, the score, the search volume, the CPC bid, those 3 things that we talked about on the last page, right? The ranges for those. And then we can also see where in position. So if you searched apple slicer, is showing up as number 4. And so that's hasn't been updated. When was it updated? 11 hours ago. So in the last 11 hours, we can see that it moved up So you can watch that and it'll start refreshing it even more quickly. So that's really cool. So you can see exactly where it's going to show up when you click on those. And so let's just take a look at how many keywords just this product's ranking for, right? So we're scrolling all the way down here, and we're seeing all these different keywords, right? So now the question is, like, all of these keywords are great, but which ones are actually driving sales to this listing? Like, I don't care particularly about some of these keywords, right? And so that's what the score and the estimated sales are trying to tell you, right? So we know with this particular product, we're estimating that they have 206 total sales per month, right? So that's okay. Well, but how does that break down? So we think that Apple Slicer and then a misspelling of that, Appler Slicer, are both creating about 24 sales per month. So the things that I should be optimizing my listing for when I'm building them are Apple Slicer and Appler Slicer, right? So I'm obviously not going to put Appler Slicer, like that's a misspelling, right? I'm not going to put that in my listing. I'm sure Karen would tell you about that, about not having misspellings in your marketing copy. But you want to have that in the back end because people are obviously searching for it. So that's something really cool there. And then we also think that Apple Core WinRain, so someone who actually knows this brand, is driving about 15 sales of that. And then Apple Slicer is driving 14 sales. And so what this lets you see is these generic keywords that maybe you wouldn't have thought of, right? I wouldn't have thought of using apples, or I wouldn't have thought of using purple apple slicer. That's not really relevant, right? So some of these you're going to have to think about if they're relevant or not. But you can kind of see which ones are actually driving sales, what people are actually searching for. Because what a lot of people forget about when they're building Amazon listings is that there are other real humans on the other side who are searching for your products, right? Amazon search, of course, you need to optimize for how Amazon's algorithm works, but at the end of the day, you can fully optimize, and I'm finger quotes for, since you can't see me, you can fully optimize for Amazon's algorithm, but then if you don't sell anything, Amazon's not going to rank you there for long. So even if you rock it up to the top. Say what?
Thank you for talking about balance.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's what I teach first. Like, that's like, I regret not mentioning it earlier. Like, there's this, people get caught up in, oh, I got to put in all these keywords, but like, is this apple slicer purple? No, like I don't want to be showing up for purple because people are going to bounce off my landing page, right? So like the things that Amazon's search algorithm cares about, right, are one, having your keywords right, so like being able to put the keywords that matter in. But once you've got those, it cares about so one, sessions, right? So people coming to your listing. Two, conversions, people coming to your listing and actually buying it. And then three, them leaving reviews, right? So if you can create sessions for a little bit, but then they don't convert, Amazon's going to say, oh, they're having a bad experience. Like, I'm not going to keep sending people to them. And that's the key. So you want to be able to write compelling copy and use search terms that people are actually searching for. So I think that is one of the most important things that people forget. And that it's, I always say, keep in mind that there's a human on the other end of this, right? That is, like, by far, like, if there's one thing you take away today, take that away, from my point of view. So we've got all these great keywords, and this is just one listing, right? This is one listing that's giving me all these keywords, and we kind of get down here into some of these, and they start to drive less than 5 estimated sales a month. But I still want to use some of these because I have some space, right? So obviously there's going to be ones that aren't magnetic blade guards. That's not going to be relevant. So there's going to be some level of trying to go through and figure out which ones work and which ones don't work. But we'll get to that in just a minute. So what we can then do is track this product. And what that's going to do is when we track a product, it'll send it to the web app. And I'll kind of talk to you about why that's important in just a minute. But let's go back out here to the search page. And we're going to get all my competitors. I like when I'm doing product research, I want to get as much information, keyword research, I want to get as much information as I can up front, right? Especially when I'm building a net new listing, or I'm building a listing from the ground up. I want to get all the information I can get. And so I'm using Scope to look at all my competitors, and then I'm also even going in and looking at reviews of my competitors and seeing how people talk. So that's like something that I think is super powerful as well that people forget, is like actually read what customers are saying. See how they talk about it. Normally, how they search for a product and how they talk about it are going to be similar. And so to build that into your marketing copy, into your title, your bullet points, those things, that'll help tell you, the reviews will help tell you which of these keywords that you get you need to be putting into your title or into your bullet points or into your back end. And so that's kind of a good tip from there. So I'm going to watch all of the top products on the first page here. So I think there should be 16 or so. So I'm going to come here, and you can see I'm quickly watching them over here, and that's going to send them to my web app. So what we're about to do is some big data on all of these products, because I'm about to get a bunch of info.
Now
really
tell me
fast.
what you mean when you're saying you're watching these. I see you clicking the binoculars, but for people that aren't familiar with Scope, what exactly is that?
Right. So a watch and Scope, what that tells you is, one, it sends it to the web app. Two, it will start to update, or it will start to track these listings and update them once every 24 hours. So it'll say, our system will go in and say, oh, what's changed with this listing once every 24 hours, and start seeing that, seeing where the ranking is and things like that on each of these listings once every 24 hours. It also lets me take them to the web app and do more information on them. So I'm going to show you that right now, right? So we're done in Chrome for right now. I'll come back and do some more discovery on it in a minute. So now we're in the web app. All right. And so I'm going to refresh it because I just did a bunch of watching. And you can see all of the products that I've started to track here. So you can see all these apple slicers, right? So I'm gonna you see all the individual products, all this information, the price, rating, review, estimated sales, estimated revenue, all the stuff you had before, but in one place. And so there's a couple reasons why this is cool. One, you don't have to go in and search and find your product and your competitors' products that you've been watching. It gives it to you all in one place. And two, you can build a list over here and segment them based on that. So you can see I have an apple slicer list over here, as well as a can holder, handkerchiefs, leash, party stuff. I can segment it based on that and do some big research stuff here. So I'm going to add them to the extra apple slicers that I just followed, add them to that, so we can get a bunch of really good data. So let's just do a couple more of these. I've already got some added to it, and we will go from there. All right, so I'm in my apple slicer list. You can see all the different products that I'm watching over here, and now I'm going to deep dive into one of these products, and we're going to get a bunch of good information. Again, your price and fee calculator, the rank, your metrics, so your price history over time, your sales rank history over time. So tracking a product gives you all of this information, and we'll start hitting it once every 24 hours for you, so you can keep track of it. So that's really powerful because it lets you see how your product's doing and see the results of what you've done, right? So if you make changes, you can see if your sales rank goes up or goes down, or make changes based on that. Because with keywords and with listing optimization, it's not a one and done thing, right? It's always be testing, right? You always want to be making changes, and while you don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, you do want to make sure that you're making changes that are positive over time. And tracking the sales rank history and things like that are going to help you do that. Additionally, you can see all the keywords over here. And so we've got this huge list, of course, like we said before. And then you can also see where your product ranks for a given keyword at any time. So if we look at 16 apple slicer, we can see where our position is for it over here, right? If I care about this keyword, I say I'm going to track this keyword and say I want to know where I'm at for this keyword at any given time. And then I'm going to take a look here and say, oh, okay, throughout the month of August, I've been ranked at position 2, but then on this day, I dropped to position 49 for some reason, but then I bumped back up to number 1 for it, and then I'm back at 2. So sometimes you'll see things like that with Amazon where they'll try you out at different spots for a little bit and see how you do, or try other things out at different spots. So watching a keyword will tell you where your product's at for that keyword at any given time. So that's super powerful, and that's like a great way to track the results. So if you add a bunch of keywords that your competitors are using, then you can start to see over time, one, if you're new to that keyword, it'll start showing up on the screen for you, or 2, you can start tracking where your actual listing's at. So I think that's a great way to see ROI. So like, for example, I did a little bit of consulting for someone. It was like a friend. They said, oh, hey, can you help me optimize my keywords? And so they didn't have any keywords in their back-end listings. So this page was just absolutely empty, right? They had like very poorly optimized bullet points and like nothing in their title. So I optimized all that for them, got them their back-end keywords, and then I started to see, one, their BSR here went up. I didn't have access to any of their sales or anything like that, but their BSR went from about 16,000 in their category to about 5,000 in their category. And then, it went from about 10 keywords that they were ranking for here to over 100. And so it was kind of like, oh, okay. I was like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, oh, it's doing pretty well. And I was like, yeah, I bet it is. Like, I can see the numbers on our end, like tracking it in scope, and see how well it's been doing. So, that's really powerful. Additionally, you can download all the keywords that this product's ranking for by hitting this button. So while that's super, so you can do that with your own products, with your competitors' products, but like where it gets really, really powerful is when you come back to the lists here. So we've got all my apple slicers right here, right? And I can, if you know the ASINs, you can quickly add an ASIN here, of course. But I can download either the product list, that just tells me all the products, all the keywords from all the products on this list, right? So if I have 10 or 50 or 100 products on this list, I'll download all the keywords that they're ranking for and all the information about those keywords. And then, or I can download all the keywords back-end formatted, which gives me the top 250 keywords, the top 250 characters of those keywords already formatted for your back-end, which is really cool because that takes away a lot of the effort for you. But so what I want to show you now is we've got all my competitors here. Let's say I'm building a net new listing. I've got my top 10 or so, 11 competitors. Now let me show you kind of my process on how I take those keywords in Excel and decide which ones are worth putting into which section of my listing, and then like how to break them out from there. And I'm not going to get into how to write the copy. That's not really my shtick, but I'll show you kind of how to decide what you want to put where. So hopefully that sounds good to you guys. So I'm going to go download, right? I've got a bunch of keywords here. We already saw how many one of those gave me. And I'm going to download all the keywords for this product list. And it's going to think about it for a second because that's a big task. And then I'm going to download it to Excel. So we're going to get kind of nerdy here, so I'm going to try to go slow, but if I need to reiterate anything, let me know. In previous lives, I've spent hours and hours and hours and hours in Excel, and I'm just like super nerdy about this stuff, so I realized that I might move through something that's not an actual easy task early on very quickly. So just let me know if I need to slow down. So we've got the downloaded file here from Excel. We've got, let's see here, scroll down. Okay, a bunch of keywords, right? We've got over 1,000 different rows of including individual words. So right, so probably more than we're ever going to be able to use, I would say, right? Like realistically. So now we need to determine which ones are the words we want to actually include in our listing in the title, right? The title's probably the most important, then the bullet points, then the description, and then the back-end search terms. And what I like to say with the back-end search terms is the back-end search terms are for those search terms that we care about, but are maybe kind of hard to put into marketing copy. So an example I like to give with that is, maybe secondary uses for your product that people still use it for that, but it doesn't fit in your brand. Or if you have misspellings or things like that, those are all good for back-end search terms. Or if you just can't think of a clever way to use it, that's probably a good use for it too. But so the example I like to give for that is I worked with some people, like I said, some friends, helping them optimize their listing. And when I was reading their reviews, doing research, this was actually before Scope was out, I was doing their research on it, and it was like a light-up product, right? But it was like a light-up sports product, so you don't get ran over. It was one of those things. And everyone in the reviews kept saying, oh, it's like a party when you're wearing this. Oh, it's like a rave when you wear this. And I was like, what they, the expression goes, if someone calls you a horse the first time, you punch them in the face. And if someone calls you a horse the second time, you kind of start to look in the mirror a little bit and say, am I a horse? And then the third time, if someone calls you a horse, you need to start looking for a stable. So the third time someone says something in your reviews, maybe you need to start thinking about whether or not that's actually true or not. Probably before then, but at least at the third time you need to do that. So people kept saying that about the product I was helping them with, and so I was like, wow, that's cool. Like that could be a secondary market there. To see, there could be a secondary market selling this as rave gear, but this is an established brand. Like we can't really do that. Like I can't just go, oh, great for running and walking your dog and raves, right? That doesn't fit in with their brand. So that's where we put it in the back-end search terms, and it did well, and they started ranking for that stuff. But it just totally didn't fit in their brand. So that's a great use for secondary markets, things like that is what you want to use your back-end search terms for. So that was kind of long-winded there. I apologize, we kind of got off topic. But yes, so what we're going to do is now parse this sheet, right? So we're going to copy all of these, and I'm going to sort first by estimated sales. Let's get all of these, come on. And so I want to know which keywords are actually driving sales to my competitors, right? We've got a lot of great keywords in here. Awesome. So we're going to go to, in Excel or Google Sheets or what have you, you can go to Data, and then Sort by, we want to go, sales volume. Nope, let's go score. Let's just do it by score. Sort by largest to smallest. All right. Yeah, let's do largest to smallest. All right. So now we've got some great information, right? We can tell you here, the score, which like I said before was an estimate of sales volume. All of that stuff tells you how many people are actually searching it. So it depends on the product. People always ask me, Tyler, what score is worth worrying about, which one's not? It depends on your product. It depends on how many keywords you have, right? Like if you have a bunch of 99s or 100s, those are going to be hard keywords to rank for. They're obviously ones you want to include, but those are going to be hard ones to rank for, right? So, maybe you're better off trying to optimize for some 30s or 40s rather than those 99s because you're going to start making sales. And then as you rank for those 30s and 40s, then you'll start to do better on the higher ones. So it's all about momentum with Amazon, right? It's about showing that that your people like your product and that it's doing well, right? Like I said, optimizing for conversion. And if people start to have a good experience with it, then Amazon's going to start to show you more and more. And that's kind of the key here. So we've kind of got a bunch of different keywords here, right? And so we're going to say for these, for all intents and purposes, right, because we've got so many here, I'm going to just say anything less than a 10, we're going to mark as red because I want to make sure that I get all these other ones worked in first. So I like to mark them using just using the fill here. So I can say, okay, these are red. So those are like, if I have room, so be it. If not, so be it. And then we're going to say from 10 to 20, we're going to mark as yellow. So I'm going to say these are ones that if I have time to get them into my listing, if I can get them in naturally, that's awesome, so be it. And if not, that's cool too, right? And then I've already got, like, even with all of these up here, I've still got a bunch of really good ones. So I'm going to go green. Like, these are the ones that I absolutely have to have in my listing, right? So I'm going to go to 30 with this. So let's go to 30 and say these are green. And so this kind of gives you, at least like for me, this kind of gives me a good idea of which ones, you know, what percentage-wise, which ones you want to try to get in early, right? So even though there's 100, you know, and 45 ones in the green here, you know, a lot of those are going to be removed in just a minute because we're going to remove the duplicate words. So, and then we've got the standard colored ones here, and those are ones that I'm going to try to get into my description probably, or maybe my bullet points, but probably my description or back end. And then if I can get these other ones in, that's great, but you know, I'm not particularly worried about it. But you know, I've already got a ton of great keywords here. So what I like to do is take these keywords, right? And so let's take a second real quick and say, if we take a look at the total search sales volume, the search volume, right? We can already see if we start even just adding these keywords to our listings, that's like how many potential searches a month that we're showing up for that we weren't showing up for before, right? Like, how powerful is that? That, you know, if I probably wouldn't have thought to put fruit dicer in this, right? It's an apple cutter. I probably wouldn't have put fruit dicer on there, but because of that, you know, that's 27,000 searches a month that I'm showing up for suddenly, right? Or, you know, cool kitchen gadgets. I'm probably not going to put that in my, you know, I could put that in my, maybe work that into my description, but that's like another 27,000 searches that I'm potentially showing up for. Or even if I'm buying, you know, ads for it, I can say, oh, okay, I can spend 70 cents to $1.27 to show up for that, and that's like, you know, a lot of searches that I'm showing up for. And so that's the cool thing about this, is you kind of get like an idea of what you're showing up for, you know, how much you're going to be able to move the needle while doing this. So I'm going to copy this, just all the green ones for now. I'm going to copy this and open up a new sheet and paste. So now we've got all of these, and what I want to do is I want to remove the duplicates, because the way the Amazon search works is you don't want to say apple over and over and over again, and sometimes it's unavoidable, right? When you have an apple slicer, it's unavoidable saying apple slicer over and over again, right? But we probably don't want to have slicer in there a billion times, right? We want to get down to what are the words I should be using that I'm not currently using. And so I'm going to show you how to get to that really quickly. So I'm going to select my row, and like I said earlier, we've got like 150 different lines here. And I'm going to go to data. And then from data, we're going to go text to columns. So data, text to columns, next. And what we're going to do is we're going to delimitate via space. So if anytime there's a space, we're going to make a new line. All right, next, and finish. So now we've separated all of our individual words, right? And so what makes this cool is now we can cut and paste all of these into one row and then get rid of the duplicates, which is super cool. Because like we said, because of the way Amazon search works, you don't want to use the same word over and over again. No matter how many times you use the keyword, no matter how many times you use the word Apple, Amazon isn't going to say, they're really an Apple this time, and then start to rank you better. They would rather see you use those for other keywords.
Right, and it's just to reiterate, it isn't that you will get in trouble. It isn't
Right.
that there's a penalty. It just isn't necessary. It isn't like Google where there are keyword algorithms that are based on density or frequency or something to that effect. Once you've put it in the listing, Amazon has it. And as Tyler said, it's an apple slicer. So you're going to say apple slicer a few times as you're writing your listing, and that's okay. But don't think that purposely stuffing the copy with the phrase apple slicer or apple core over and over and over again is going to do you any good, because it won't.
Totally. Thank you for clarifying there. That's exactly it, right? Because Amazon is a search engine, just like Google's a search engine, or Yahoo's a search engine, or Ask Jeeves used to be a search engine. But like what Amazon knows and cares about is sales, right? So all of these keywords and everything like that are just to get them to the point where they can see how you're selling. And so, while you won't show up for something if you don't tell Amazon that you need to show up for it, putting it over and over again, like you said, is not going to be beneficial to you. So we've got all of the keywords, right? We know these are the green list. These are ones I want to make sure I include. We've got them all here. Now let's do this. Select this line, and then we're going to remove duplicates. So this is again in the data tab. We're going to remove duplicates. And what that's going to give us is a much smaller list, right? So now we're down to 115 words that we want to make sure are in our listing. And so these are words that we know are powerful, that we know Amazon cares about, that people are searching for, and we want to add in. There's still going to be some level of having to determine which ones to include where, right? So let's take this for example. I know I am an apple slicer. I know that, right? I'm not really sure what this is. I think this is probably a brand. I would have to pull this out and think about it.
Yeah, Calphalon
Slicer,
is a big kitchen brand.
right. So then I would not want to include that.
Yeah.
Right. So I would not want to include that, right? And then my apple slicer is not big enough to cut a pineapple, right? People are searching for pineapple slicer, but my apple slicer is not going to do it. So I don't want to have that, because people are going to go, oh, I don't want to buy that, or they're going to leave me a bad review when it doesn't cut apple slicer. 8. So 8 OXO again is another brand. Don't want to include that because of the new brand registry rules. 8. So does my apple slicer cut into 8? If so, I want 8 in there. If not, I want the number 12 down here, right? So that just depends. And then you have some ASINs, so people are looking at ASINs. We don't want to include those. Garlic and Parmesan, potentially, those are maybe those secondary markets you were talking about, where I was talking about, where maybe I can cut Parmesan with it. That's an interesting use I would have never thought about. Yeah, I might try to work that in, but maybe not. I don't know. Kitchenware, again, don't want to include that. And then things like good and useful and metal, like those are things that are going to be worked in naturally. But you want to know that the people are searching for those, because that helps you learn how to describe it and how people are searching for it. And so that's like, of course, these are the green words, right, that we care about up front. And there's 115 there. And then, it only gets more as we get into all these other ones. And so that's kind of how I approach just like kind of tearing these apart and looking at them. And of course, it kind of varies depending on the product that you're looking at, which scores matter to you. But I would say if it's the first time that you're doing it, take a look at all the scores and just kind of do it from there and see how many keywords you come up with. You can always read down the list or open up a new Excel file and try it again. I just play around with it until you find what works for you and your company. Now there is another portion of the web app I'd like to talk about, and that's the keyword generator, right? And so maybe you're just you're saying, man, I'm not super sure like what other words I could be using, right? I got apple slicer, but I just want to kind of play around and see what else I can find. So I'm going to type in apple slicer here and see what else we kind of come up with. It's going to give me relevant keywords that are related to what I'm looking at. So I just typed in apple slicer, right? It's giving me the score. It's giving me the search volume. So this gives you apple cutter slicer core. So that's very relevant, right? And here's another score. That's a great score. And I'm not watching it currently. So let's start watching that keyword. Or I can go view it on Amazon, right? Let's open that tab up in Amazon and do some discovery. So it's kind of taking the discovery approach from a different angle, which is really super cool, where you can start to find products by like, okay, well, what are other people calling this? Like maybe I can dig in and see, oh, Slicer's got a bunch of searches. Well, what actually shows up in Slicer? Is it going to be worth my time to, use ad buy for this, or to put it in my listing, just Slicer? And you can kind of see it on Amazon, which is super cool. Or you can, of course, start watching it in scope. Or if you hit this little pivot over here, these little cogs, that's going to pivot your search based on that and rerun your search for that keywords. So again, it just gives you another way to kind of do some research and say, well, okay, well, is this relevant to me? Is it not relevant to me? How many searches does it have? Just based on this idea that I have. And so that's really gives you a whole big old list of keywords here, which is super cool. And then, of course, you can download all of those keywords, all of those relevant keywords as a CSV. And so that's just like a really quick, easy way to download and see, here's an idea that I have. Is this going to be even worth my time? And so I think that's a super cool way to do it. That's kind of scope in a nutshell. I know we kind of moved through a lot of information really quickly there. Forgive me if it was a little scattershot, but there's just a lot of great data, and I want to get to it all. We've got a landing page for marketing words because they're our great friends, Karen and everyone over there, where you can save. You can of course download the Chrome extension for free,
Yep.
which gives you the top 3 keywords for any listing, and then you can save $50 using the words scope or words 50.
And I put the link to this page in the questions box and just send it to everybody, so you should have it. But it's stellarlabs.com/marketingwords.
Right.
Stellarlabs.com/marketingwords is where you will get to this page that will give you the $50 off and the free Chrome extension with your scope purchase. And if you have questions, I know we have some in here already, go ahead and put them into the question box. And let's see what we've got so far, Tyler. First of all, Nick says, I have scope and I absolutely love it. So
Awesome.
thank
Glad
you
to
for
hear
that.
it. And so
Yeah.
before we go on, I do want to specify, if you're not at a point where you're ready to do keyword research, that's what the point of the Chrome extension's for, right? You can download the Chrome extension for free, and it'll give you those top 3 keywords. But we're at Stellar Labs, like we want to give you like some information and help give you product research and like information. But like if you're not ready for the full version, that's what the Chrome extension is for, and so it's going to give you a ton of great info for free there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been really amazing to watch the demo. I appreciate so much you taking the time to do that. I have learned a lot from just watching the processes that you have gone through and whatever. So it's been really helpful. Let's see what questions we've got here. Is there a strength to a phrase over just a term? For example, apple slicer versus just using apple and then slicer.
That is a incredibly great question. So I'm going to go back to Chrome or to the Excel here so I can illustrate it, because normally I like to write this out on the board. But so here is, to the best of our understanding, we've worked with SEO and search engine people and like leaders in both like the Google and Amazon space. And here is my understanding of how it works. To some extent, yes, and to some extent, no, right? So in the backend search terms, there is no correlation between phrases, right? So if you have, I like to give the example, red fire truck, right? It's going to try, when you put those into your backend search terms, it's going to try red truck, It's going to try red truck fire. It's going to try truck fire red. This is going to try all of these words together, right? So it's going to string them all together so there's no correlation. Of course, in things like your title and your bullet points and your search terms, that is going to matter to some extent because that's how people are going to be searching for it. Additionally, when you're using it for PPC and things like that, it does matter there. But in the backend search terms, definitely not. And then I would say that's, again, where you want to optimize for conversion, not for ranking. So people are going to search red fire truck more than they're going to search red truck fire in the front end.
All right, and then let's see what else we have. Could you go over the procedure for the watch list again? I don't know, do you have time to do that now? Or why don't we see if we have other questions? Because there is the replay that the link will go out for, so you can watch that as many times as you want to. So I tell you what, let's see if anybody else has questions, and then if we have time, we can do that at the end again.
So while you find the next question, just very quickly, it's find the products in the Amazon, watch them here, right? Go to scope, add them to a track list, and then download all the keywords. That's it, like super succinctly.
Cool.
Add them to the track list, download the keywords for that track list.
Good deal. Okay. Please explain your reference to the new brand registry rules about, you were talking about competitor brands when you were taking out OXO and Calphalon.
Right. So that's something that's Amazon. So previously there was a program called Amazon Brand Registry. They've recently closed that off to new users, and that basically just says, hey, I'm the owner of this brand. Don't let anyone don't let anyone sell this product, essentially. Similar to product gating. But there's a new initiative they're coming out with called Brand Registry 2.0 or Brand Central, and we've got a blog about it, and there's still not a ton of information about it. But essentially, it's going to give registered brands who have trademarks the ability to register with Amazon and say, oh, these are approved listings, these are approved sellers to sell my brand. So if you put something like, what's the like Ziploc bags, right? And if you say my Ziploc bags, when you're not selling Ziploc bags, you have a white labeled Ziploc bag, then Ziploc can say, oh, they're not actually Ziploc bags, but they're using our trademark, take them down. So that's why you don't want to use trademarked terms or brands in your listings, right?
Right. So if you're selling first aid supplies, you would not say that your first aid kit includes Band-Aids if they are not Band-Aid brand. You would have to say your first aid kit includes adhesive bandages. Exactly.
And so the best example that anyone's able to give right now is recently a lot of listings that had Velcro in their listing have been taken down because Velcro is like one of the brands and one of the trademark terms, right? I can't remember what it's called. Like
hook and loop.
Hook and loop is like the correct term to use. So that's why. But a bunch of listings put Velcro in it because that's how people search, and people don't know that it's hook and loop. See, I didn't know it was hook and loop. I probably would have put Velcro if I was building a listing.
Well, this is why it's always good to be first to market, because you end up not only being a noun, the brand name, but people assume it is the generic version of it instead of a brand name. So you do the same thing with Band-Aids, you do the same thing with Listerine. Everybody doesn't say, I have to go get my medicated mouthwash from the drugstore because I'm almost out. They say, I need more Listerine, even if they're using Scope, the mouthwash Scope, or some other brand of medicated mouthwash, they're still going to call it Listerine. So
no one says I need more facial tissue. They say I need more Kleenexes.
Kleenex, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So that's
that's
what he was talking about with the brand names and whatever in Seller Central. But yeah, there are people that are having to make some changes because of that. Okay,
right.
we've
So
got more.
just
Go ahead.
just Google Brand Registry 2.0, and articles about that will come up if you need more information.
Good deal. Okay, let's see what other questions we've got here. Somebody's asking, is there a monthly subscription for Scope?
So yes, there's two different versions. Like I said, you can get the Chrome extension for free, and that'll give you the top three keywords, or you can or you can subscribe to one of the monthly plan or one of the yearly subscriptions. And so what the yearly subscription gives you is access to Scope for a full year, and that will because you get to come in and track and see how your listing's doing over time with these changes. So that's why it's a yearly subscription. There's no monthly subscription, just yearly.
Okay, yearly. So, all right, and that's at sellerlabs.com/marketing words, and the coupon code is there, and the free Chrome extension is there, and whatnot, so you can get it there. Okay,
Indeed.
let's see. What else do we have here? How does Scope compare to something like Jungle Scout?
Right. So they're really kind of different products. So Scope has some of the functions of like a Jungle Scout, right? So it's going to give you the estimated sales, the revenue, right? All this stuff on the product search page is kind of what Jungle Scout gives you. But what's really powerful about Scope is not that, right? That's good information to have, and you have to have that for context when you're doing research. But the powerful stuff is the keyword research, which Jungle Scout doesn't touch at all. So I think it's good to use the data that we give you in conjunction with the data that Jungle Scout has, but use them both, right? But where Scope's powerful and where you're gonna get your money's worth out of Scope is by doing the keyword research with it and tracking that keyword research over time.
All right, good deal. And let's see, we've got one. What's the difference between search terms and platinum terms and intended use, etc.? Search terms are where your keywords, what most people just simply refer to as keywords, those go into your search term fields. Platinum terms are only for A-plus sellers, so if you are not someone who is an A-plus seller, a vendor, or in Vendor Central, those that sell wholesale directly to Amazon and are also allowed to create their own listings, then you would put nothing in the platinum search terms. Intended
Right.
use, subject keywords, and I'm drawing a blank. Tyler, what's the other one?
Oh, if you wouldn't have asked me, I
Target
could have
audience.
told you.
Target
Oh,
audience.
yeah, there you go.
To my knowledge, unless something has changed recently, the only one of those that is currently being indexed is subject terms. And that's simply things that have to do with your what the product is about. Intended use, that I believe that will also help with browse when people are clicking through the left-hand sidebar to narrow down choices and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And you put in the uses, just exactly what it says. If it's an apple slicer, what's the use for this? You may put in cooking. You may put in slicing. Maybe you'll put in other things that come to mind that would be a use for the apple corer. And then target audience is exactly what it says. Who? The intended use is how will they use it. The subject terms are what is it, what is the product, and the target audience is the who of those questions. Who is using it? Moms, women, dads, cooks, chefs, anybody else that would be in your target audience would go into those. But for SEO purposes, unless something has recently changed, the subject terms are the only ones being indexed, but intended use and target audience will help with people who are browsing and clicking through categories on the left-hand side. Let's see what else we've got. Would I use this tool only for new listings that I create, or would I be able to edit listings that aren't getting enough sales, blah, blah, blah? You can use it for both, right?
Right, yeah. So with the caveat being it's probably not worth your time to edit listings that you're not the only seller on unless you're winning the buy box a large percentage of the time or have some level of exclusivity on it. because that kind of takes a lot of effort. But if you have a listing that you control and have built, then you should definitely be using it to optimize it, right? Come in and see, one, how you're ranking over time for these keywords. Two, I think you'll be amazed at if even though you've spent time to build out your listing previously, the things that you might have not even thought of to come up with. So I use it for both.
Good deal. And then we have a question: what's the difference between the Chrome extension and the paid version of Scope?
Okay, so the Chrome extension gets you everything on the product search page, right? So all of the more product discovery stuff, and then it gets you everything on this page as soon as it loads. And then you can get, once you go into a listing, the actual product detail page, it gives you all of the information about the pricing calculator, the BSR, all of that stuff, and then it gives you the top 3 keywords. The paid version gives you all the keywords as well as all of that other information, as well as access to the web app.
Good deal. Awesome. All right. I think we may have reached the end of our list. Anybody have final questions for me or for Tyler before we wrap it up today? A lot of great information, and I love the layout. It is very easy to read, and as you've been going through the demo, I have had no problem following you from place to place to place. It's really intuitive. Where I think things should be, they are.
That's
so
awesome.
I really appreciate the clean layout. It's really easy to work my way through that.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
Good deal. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions. If you want to take Tyler up on this offer, you can go to sellerlabs.com/marketingwords, and you will see the page that Tyler has up on there. You can get the free Chrome extension there, and the Chrome extension gives you 3 keywords.
Mm-hmm.
Correctly? Okay, so you get 3 with that. And then if you decide to move on to Scope and you're ready to do some serious keyword research, then save $50 by using the code WORDS50 when you sign up for an annual subscription to that. And let's see, how long has Scope been active? Are you saying when did the software launch? Yes, so when did you launch?
We launched the software in February of this last year, but prior to that, we spent 2 years building the software as well as all of that algorithms that have come into play with it. So they were just starting it when I first started with Seller Labs, which was over 2 years ago, and it launched this February. So we've got a ton of great data, that we've been building and perfecting the algorithms this whole time until now.
Awesome. Wonderful. All right. I appreciate it. Everybody else that wants to go back through and listen to this again or watch the steps that Tyler has taken, we will send out an email to you when the replay is ready. We've got to, of course, download it and edit it and format it and blah, blah, blah before we're ready to send that out. So it may be a day or 2 before you get that. I so appreciate you coming and spending some time with Tyler and me, and I hope it was useful to you and that you have learned a lot and been able to discover some new tools for finding keywords and being able to use them more effectively with Amazon's new search terms policy. So we're going to wrap it up here. Keep your eye out for the replay, which will be sent out shortly. I hope you have a great afternoon. Tyler, thanks again so much, and you have a good day, everybody.